This is picture I drew of Mikasa Ackerman, more like a comic book style, while I was watching the football yesterday. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, remember to follow on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and you see more picture.
Attack on Titan, Episode 4, Night of the Graduation Ceremony.
Well, hello and welcome, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the tantalizing tale of Attack on Titan. This is going to be for episode 4 of the anime, and honestly, like I said, I really enjoyed the last episode just for the character development and building and the whole, showing them going through some of the training, the trials and tribulations, and that's really what we had. In this one here, we fast forward a couple of years along, and we're just upon pretty much the eve of the graduation of the recruits, but we get a real cool action scene at the beginning of it where they're all kind of doing like a forced army type march through the woods or whatever, and Keith is on his horse. We see that Armin is weak physically and having trouble keeping up, but Reiner's going to go and help him and grab his pack. Armin goes and after a couple of seconds of that happening goes and grabs it back and says, "You know what? I may die trying, but I'm going to push. I'm going to push harder. I'm going to make it through." And then we see him doing some really cool 3D maneuvers, and we kind of see how they fly around. And the only thing that I can really make it akin to is like a Spider-Man type of thing, the way they're able to kind of whip around. Obviously, it's different in the setup with the way of the propulsion and these kind of almost jetpack type things, that go around their waist. But they're really cool because we see that they have in the woods in various spots. They kind of play like these different type of war games almost, where everybody gets sent out and they get points based on how quickly they can get to the Titan, how they can slash. You see that there's a spot that needs to be slashed on the back of their neck. We saw that briefly too in the opening sequence, and in the manga they explain that there's like this 1 meter tall, 10-inch wide area on the back of their necks that you can actually slash the Titan and kill it. Otherwise, you can cut off arms, legs, heads. It just regenerates. Now they haven't explained that yet in the anime, but that's what I've gathered from it. So it's kind of cool because you see them going and doing this really cool action sequence where they're all doing these different maneuvers, war games I like to call them. And Keith is basically sitting there talking and grading everybody, and he's like, basically says, Mikasa is like at the top of her class and is basically heralded as one of the best recruits they've ever had. Reiner is strong, but he's basically talking strength and weaknesses about everybody, and we see Potato Girl, Sasha, she's kind of goofy in the way she goes about things, but she gets things done. There's other people like Jeans, he's very good, but he's not a team player. He's not very well liked amongst his peers. And we saw in the last one too that he's kind of a dick anyway. So him and Eren didn't get along too well. But really, then he goes and he gets to Eren and he says, Eren Yeager, doesn't have really any outstanding qualities that really stick out above the rest, but he works harder than anybody else to improve himself overall day by day. So he's basically saying he's one of those guys that, he may not be like just the God's gift to, this particular thing, to swordsmanship or to, sniping or whatever your skill may be, your skill set. He's not naturally good at any of those things, but he works so hard just to be as good as he can at them, So it's actually pretty cool. We then go and we see a kind of a training sequence later on that day or the next day. And Reiner and Eren start talking amongst themselves about how Annie, and she was the blonde girl that wound up going and helping and picking up Sasha and tossing her over her shoulder after she had passed out from eating the potato and then having to run all day. We see Annie kind of just slacking off, and they're like, yeah, as usual, she gets away with, somehow slacking off and avoiding, the instructors and actually being able to see and bitch at her. She should get a headbutt from Keith, right? From Keith Shadis, the wrinkled penis. Instructor over there. So basically, Reiner says, let's go teach her what being a soldier, is like. And they play this game where it's basically like an attack and defend. One person has like a wooden knife, and the other person is supposed to go and basically try to disarm them, the assailant, while they're being attacked without having a weapon. And when Eren and Reiner are practicing, Eren's like, this is stupid. Why do we even got to do this too? And Reiner explains to him that you have to be prepared for anything. Or maybe it's Reiner that says that. I forget which one. But basically, the gist of it is that no matter what, you have to be ready to protect yourself. It's not only Titans that can be a danger and can be a menace, right? So whatever the case may be, you have to be prepared for battle in any way, shape, or form, even when you're unarmed or underarmed. So they go and they're going to teach Annie a lesson, right? And Eren comes up and he's going to go and he kind of confronts her and goes to, he's going to, he basically wants to play this little game with her, right? Well, she goes and just fucking just nails him. She kicks him, kicks him in the leg, and then goes and sweeps out from under him and knocks him on his ass, right? And the action scenes are really cool and very well done in here because, as I mentioned before, the anime is just beautifully done. It looks like it's this really cool hand-drawn look, with these nice, thick, sharp lines. The colors pop. But so he gets knocked flat on his ass, and he's like, "What the hell?" And then Reiner's like, "You got to take the, the sword from him. You got to disarm him, basically." So she comes over and in one fell swoop is able to disarm him, whips the thing at Reiner, And Reiner now he's probably one of the biggest out of everybody, He looks like he's built and probably a head taller than this Annie. And so then she's like, "Now it's your turn, right?" Well, she goes and winds up crumpling him. They don't even show it. They just show him like hunched over and just bent over, like holding his stomach or his nuts, right? She just nailed him, So Eren goes and asks her, "What the hell? Where did you learn that?" And she says, it's of no consequence. And she basically goes, and this is where the whole theme of the first half or almost the first episode comes from. The top 10 recruits that have the best scores and do the best are the ones that are allowed to go and be part of the military police, the King's Guard, right? And they're the ones that they're the best fighters, but yet they're the ones that go back and live the cushy life and stay away from the action, okay? So it's like taking your best warriors and going and putting them on the sideline, you know what I mean? Or if you have like a football team, it's like taking your best quarterback and putting him on the bench and having like the B team backup practice squad guy come up and quarterback the game. So she basically explains it doesn't matter where I learned the stuff from. She doesn't go and put a lot of it out there because, she did wind up learning it from her father, she says. But as far as some of the hand-to-hand combat and everything else, there's no point in going and showing off and kind of showing how strong you are and good because all you do is get moved away from the front lines. So that's kind of the whole deal there. Later on that night, there's another, back in the kind of like bunkhouse, meeting house, whatever, where they're all eating and everything. There's an exchange between Eren and Jean again. They have, basically they're kind of going toe to toe, with things again. And Eren more or less calls Jean a bitch because he just wants to be in the military police. And he's like, you're soft. You're not even a soldier. You've already checked out mentally, So him and Jean are about to go at it, and Jean grabs his shirt, and he's yelling. They're yelling back and forth. And then Eren goes and thinks earlier back to Annie and the hand-to-hand stuff she did and how she was able to take them out with making it look like very little effort. So he goes and sweeps, Jean's leg out from under him and knocks him flat on his ass. And he's like, "What the hell was that?" And he's like, this was this martial arts that I had to basically get my ass kicked earlier to learn and go through a great deal of pain. And then all of a sudden, the door peeks open a little bit. And this was the funniest part of the episode. The door peeks open a little bit, and we see the wrinkled penis, right? We see Keith Shadis, and he is a creepy-looking, child-molesting-looking motherfucker, right? He just kind of peeks in a little bit, and he's just like, it's all in Japanese, but the subtitles are basically like, "What's the commotion? What's going on? Somebody speak up." So everybody's just kind of sitting around, and they're not saying anything, right? And we know clearly it was the commotion between Jean and Eren. Jean getting knocked on his ass. And all of a sudden, Mikasa goes, Sasha farted. And he goes, "Learn to control yourself better," and he takes off. Now, I don't know if this is like the official translation. I'm watching this on Crunchyroll, so I'm assuming that this is... I'm hoping that there's some sort of, that this is official or whatever, and this wasn't just, the person who was putting up the subtitles, like, interpreting what they thought would be funny in that spot, but I thought it was comical, Sasha farted so loud that it was commotion, right? So the next day they have their graduation ceremony. They wind up seeing that the only ones that can join the military police, the King's Guard basically, are the top 10. And we see that like Eren, Annie, Reiner, Mikasa, a bunch of them made the top 10. But we also see that Jean just barely did not make it, and he's like kind of pissed off that he's like, how come I didn't? Eren's not really great at anything. How come he made it and I didn't? Blah blah blah. So they have their graduation ceremony, and then it's kind of cool because the next day we go and we see, because we know the whole time that Eren is going to join the Survey Corps. There's a little brief interaction between him and Armin and Mikasa where they basically talk about that. Armin got by just by the skin of his teeth. Physically he had problems, but as far as his marks went on things, he was super high up on all his tests and everything like that. So he would have been a shoo-in for the military police because that's what they're talking about. He's like, "Nope, I'm joining the Survey Corps." And then, Mikasa's like, yep, and whatever you're going to join, Eren, I'm going to join too, because you're basically, you're an idiot, you're hot-headed, you're going to get yourself killed without me. So they all agree that they're gonna join the Survey Corps, and this was after Eren, of course, gave his speech, when he got into that altercation with Jean about how how could you not want to take your skills that you've honed over the last 3 years, and if you're good at killing Titans, how come you don't want to get out there and kill them, right? So he gave this really good Braveheart type speech, and the next day we see, he's working out there, and they're working on, they're like on a wall crew, they're at the top of the wall, back behind Wall Rosé, and they've got, there's the cannons up there and everything else, and what, I don't know if they're cleaning the cannons, loading the cannons, whatever, right? And we see one by one a bunch of people go and wind up appearing, Connie and Reiner, and we first find out that Connie, he's like, what are you doing here? Well, Connie joined the Survey Corps. Now, the Survey Corps, remember, those are the ones that basically, they go out and pretty much go into the teeth of madness all the time. They're constantly putting themselves in harm's way to try to kill these Titans. And so Connie joined up, and basically, I say, hey, your speech really affected him. Well, we wind up seeing a bunch of other ones too that joined up, that joined the Survey Corps. Just Reiner and Sasha. I don't know if she had a choice or not, but and she winds up. She's comical. She comes up there and she's like, "Oh, look, I stole some meat from the officers' quarters or whatever." And they're like, "Meat," and we find out that meat, especially ever since Wall Maria was lost 5 years ago, since they have less area and territory now, livestock, cattle, things like that. You can't raise them as much. I guess you don't have as much room for them, so there's meat is like hard to come by. So basically they're like, no, you're gonna get in trouble with that. We're gonna all get in trouble, and then little by little, one by one, they're all like, I'll have some of that meat, me too, and you can see they're all it's something that they're deprived of, So the episode ends shortly after that, but really not before the shit hits the fan. It's really funny because here, poor Eren, man. I mean, 5 years since the Colossus Titan appeared and wound up, breaking through the wall, and the rubble, landed on his mother, crushed her house, and then he saw his mother get eaten, right? Kid goes through all this stuff that he does, starving, for a couple of years, eventually joining up and training for 3 years to be the best, and blah, blah, blah. First day out on the job, right? First day out on the job, standing up on the wall, and he's just like talking about how, I'm going to kill all the Titans, and I'm going to kill that Colossus Titan, and it's like the Colossus Titan hurt him, right? Because all of a sudden, you see the lightning again, and Eren's got his back to him. He's facing the interior, he's facing the inside where everything is. And he's on top of this wall, 150 feet up in the air, 160 feet, whatever. And all of a sudden, and it's really cool seeing the Colossus Titan is behind him, like, you rang? And I'm just thinking, this poor kid's like, I thought it was a fucking joke. I thought he was like having a dream or something, right? So the Colossus Titan appears. They're all up on the wall. They're all like in shock. He goes and just kind of nails his hand against the wall. Rubble's flying everywhere. People are flying over the edge. I mean, and they're trying to fire off their 3D gear and whatnot. Sasha goes down. Connie's fallen. I mean, there's a couple of near misses, a couple of rescues at the last second. You know what I mean? Where I forget who it was that wound up doing it. I don't know if it was Mikasa or somebody. Wound up saving somebody else that was falling to their doom. Basically, was able to fire out one of their harpoon things and wrap their leg right before they hit the ground. Maybe it was Sasha they had to save because they all got knocked off the wall unexpectedly. So now they're all like repelled down the wall, set with their gear and everything like that. And the episode basically ends with with kind of what's his name, Eren, regaining his composure and basically thinking, that's fucking colossal Titan, So he winds up going and he's basically just like, everybody, battle formation, blah, blah, this and that, so-and-so company, we're going to take this Colossus Titan out. The Colossus Titan has also busted a hole again in towards the bottom of the wall. So apparently he kicks his foot into the wall or something like that because there's a hole now coming into here, and they're obviously this is their second to last ring of area here. So they want to they're pretty scared about that. But he sees this as his chance to get back at this Colossus Titan for obviously killing his mother and just the decimation of his town and everything else, because that's what started it. So I think the shit's going to hit the fan in the next episode. We've had a couple that were, I guess, a little bit on the character development or slower side. There's been a little bit of action, but really have been more geared towards developing and building the characters, with all these, with Bertholdt and Reiner and Connie and all these different, kind of side characters that we're going to see as the series progresses. So all in all, I thought it was very good. My episode question, I guess, is, can you believe Eren's luck? I mean, seriously. Is that I understand that this is all written out and everything else, and you can't go and have, you can't just have like 100 years of peace in between everything or it'd be boring as shit. But I mean, can you believe this kid's luck, honestly? I mean, is this just, I guess my question is like, is it just bad luck, or was it like fate, or do you think the Colossal Titan just hurt him? I mean, what do you think that all of a sudden after 5 years, right, at the most inconvenient time, at Eren's first day on the job after graduating, and he had a brief interaction too. We saw Mr. Hannes again or whatever, and I can't believe you're so big and all that stuff. But that was prior to but the first day up on the wall on the job, right? And he goes and he makes some mention about, I'm going to kill all the Titans and I'm going to get back at the Colossus Titan. And all of a sudden, boom, he appears. It makes you think that there's a higher power out to get Eren Yeager, so. But anyway, let me know what you think, brothers and sisters, in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you think that I deserve it, and then subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next one, nation.
Remember, brothers and sisters, to share, subscribe, spread the word of the nation to others, and of course, if you like watching the videos, watching them is always much appreciated. Have a nice day.